Here's the hidden history of globalization. It's not economic hitman. It's really about demographics. The United States created an artificial demographic boom because everybody else killed off their young men in World War II, and we had the boom. So America, 50s and 60s, greatest country in the world. Couldn't do anything wrong, was going to rule the planet forever. And then the Japanese came along with their own demographic dividend, moved into manufacturing, and we were like, what? And then the Japanese were going to rule forever. They're so clever. They think differently from us. They view everything differently from us. And then the Chinese came along. Most amazing economy in world history. Going to rule the planet. Except their demographic dividend petered out in 2010. And all of a sudden, women are hanging themselves on factory floors for more money. Guess what that gets you for a raise? About 30% on average. So the exodus of low-end manufacturing already going to the next big center, demographic dividend, Southeast Asia. After that comes India. After that comes two players. I put my money on sub-Saharan Africa. Everybody who moves up the production ladder has to slot somebody in behind them. Why I don't worry about China becoming too aggressive in Southeast Asia, or on some level between China and India, is because of this reality. They need each other desperately to work. Again, the shift towards a latitudinal perspective. And I'll explain what I mean on this side by talking about demography in the United States. Right now in America, you look at 6 Americans, 1 is Latino. Oh my God. 2050, that drops to 1 in 3. Pretty dramatic. 1/3 of your electorate is given to thinking about the rest of the hemisphere in a dramatically different way, because it's home. Sorry. You can see it here. Here's the white population. Here's the boomers. There's the millennials. Look at the Latinos. Nowhere near that process. I'm going to explain American history in the 7 generations of the Barnetts. First Barnett, who comes over from Scotland by way of Northern Ireland, Joseph Barnett, fought with Washington only in the summer. This guy, his country couldn't afford any stars on its flag. All it could afford was a cut-up dead snake. His son, born under 13 stars. Grandson starts with 24 stars, a lot more by the time he exits the scene. This is the most fascinating one to me. My great-grandfather, Harry Barnett, born under Lincoln, dies under Truman. There's a journey. Stars were taken away from him, added back. By the time he's done, we're up to 48 stars. My grandpa, J.E., gets 5 stars across his lifetime. My dad, John, got 2. What have I gotten? Bupkis. I don't have a single star to show for my life. I'll be the first Barnett to be born and to die under the same American flag. And I think that sucks. So I'm holding out as long as I can. Barack Obama would be the first president ever to suffer that fate. Countries are like brands. You're either adding stars or you're losing stars. That's the essential competition going forward. The biggest predictors of long-term economic health, how integrating you are with other countries in your neighborhood that are younger and faster growing. So either we integrate this or somebody else gets that prize. Again, Jeb Bush, Donald Trump. Tell me where our future lies. But I'll tell you where our fear sits right now. On the top of that weird hairdo. What is going to have to change very dramatically between us and Latin America is this crazy drug war, which is going away very quickly. Why? States are opting out at a very rapid pace for a lot of good reasons. Lincoln Chafee, governor of Rhode Island, calls it pot for potholes, which I love. Why does it make sense? not just talking about the biggest war of the last 15 years in the planet. Let's talk about what we've done to ourselves. Nixon declares war on drugs. Look at the percentage of incarcerated Americans. And that's before you start talking about black males. Meanwhile, we're the safest we've been in about 40 years in terms of major crimes. And yet we're incarcerating at a record pace. So record that we are way off the charts compared to anybody else. Which is weird, because we're changing our perspective on marijuana and other drugs just like we did on gay marriage, which is the first big quake caused by the millennials, quite frankly. We saw it as a civil rights issue, which meant it was just pissing in the wind to fight it. Same thing happens on drugs. Same basic percentages. Silent generation says 80% no. Boomers say 60% no. Gen X says 40% no. Millennials say 20% no. So that shift has already happened, and we're watching it unfold. We've also seen Latin America basically opt out of this war. They think it's nuts. They're tired of taking our money and our guns so that they can fight this huge conflict on their soil, basically because we're a nation of addicts. But think about the millennials. They grew up in a world of pharmacology from the beginning. Not just ADHD. I'm talking about just looking at drugs in a very, very different way. We tend to demonize drugs, and we tend to attach that demonization to immigrants. First drug laws ever passed in America: opium, Chinese, 19th century, San Francisco. And we still think of immigrants primarily in terms of drugs and crime. Again, Donald Trump touches a nerve, an idiotic nerve, but he really scratches it. The immense amount of money we're spending on this war is poisoning our long-term relationship with Latin America, which is why it's gone. DEA is still going to be in business. It's not going to be about drugs. It's going to be about biology. Living people like we're watching in the Med right now, and biology in general. Why the U.S. remains unchallengeable on